The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast.
Booker drawing traffic. What a pass. Durant wide open.
Booker not only scoring the ball, but making plays for his teammates. Kevin Durant knocks it down.
Phoenix Suns defeated the Los Angeles Clippers for the third time in a row, second time in a row in LA to extend their lead to 3-1. Sam, how are you doing?
Well, they certainly never make it easy on us, Mike, but all things considered, I'm doing pretty good. We were just hanging out in playback for that game. It was a fun time. And yeah, rough first quarter. Not the best energy in there at all points of the game, but eventually they got it back and ended up with a 12-point lead here. And they took care of business, like you said, third time in a row.
Yeah, we can't, when we do the games on playback, we can't pretend like we were confident the whole game because people can feel our nerves live in real time. But the highlights of this one, for the first time in the playoffs, Kevin Durant outscored Devin Booker, 31 points for Kevin Durant, 11 rebounds, 6 assists. Devin Booker, 30 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals in this game once again. And then the main thing I think that we're probably going to talk about, DeAndre and Chris Paul showed up in this game, which was perfect timing because for the first time, Torrey Craig didn't have an otherworldly out-of-body experience on offense. Chris Paul ended with 19 points, 9 assists. DeAndre in 15 points, 13 rebounds. And in my opinion, the first game where you can call his defense good for the entirety of the game. Because he had stretches where he was good in the previous 3 games. But to me, in this game, he's basically solid the entire game, which is exactly what the Suns needed. What's the first thing that stands out? What's the first thing you want to talk about this game?
Well, I'll be honest, it probably wasn't going to be the first thing I was going to talk about, but now I'm happy to do it. Like we can talk about Ayton since you started there.
Yeah.
And especially since I think we both and maybe I went after him so hard after the last game, even though we won. It's just important maybe to draw the contrast here a little bit and praise him when things actually go well and point out what the differences were in a win like this. So yeah, his verticality was great. His effort around the rim was great in this one. He had 4 offensive rebounds as well. He was really working hard, particularly in the first half on the offensive glass. And look, wasn't the best DeAndre Ayton game I've ever seen.
Well, he had 5 turnovers.
Still shot 1 for 4.
Yeah.
5 turnovers, shot 1 for 4 from the free throw line.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend like this was his best effort, but it was much better effort than what we saw in games 1 through 3. And you're just right. This team, which already doesn't shoot a lot of threes to begin with, when they don't get those kind of outlier performances from a guy like Torrey Craig, all the more important that they win the possession battle and they win the physicality battle, and most of that is going to come through the work of DeAndre Ayton. So, yeah, he was much better tonight. And then Chris Paul. Do you want to say on anything on Ayton first, probably, before?
Let's focus on him for a second here because I want to point it out. 15 points, 13 rebounds, yes, 5 turnovers, and I think his hands started off really great, and he did bobble some stuff later in the game. That's what ended. The 5 turnovers thing was part of the problem there, along with some, I think, 2 errant passes. Box score aside, being in the right place, team defense-wise, was the most important thing for his game. And I don't believe in single game plus minus always, but I don't think it's a coincidence that he was plus 17 and Biyombo was minus 5 in this game. Ayton was contesting high around DHOs, allowing Durant to be the weak side help defender at the rim against Plumlee or Zubats. He was higher up against players like Westbrook or Norm Powell on the drives, forcing them into tough contested shots or just forcing them to bail on their shots at the rim entirely and work on something else offensively. And those things, along with rebounding, where he did have 4 offensive rebounds, as you pointed out, are more important than his scoring. Yes, his scoring is important, but in a game where, once again, they're going to leave guys open because they have 2 superstars on the floor, his scoring will probably come relatively easy. And I think it did for the majority of this game. Although he did have one really great roll to the rim and finish late in the game that was vital. And his finishing is always there. That's the thing. It's rare for him to be awful when it comes to finishing. It's the focus and intent on defense and the chasing down the rebounds. I think that makes the biggest difference for the Suns to win. And in this game, he did it well. And like I said, without Torrey Craig scoring 25 points, it's important to be right on the money defensively. And I thought he did a really great. It was the first game, like I said, where I thought he was good throughout the game, beginning to end. Started out with the right focus defensively, maybe struggled a little offensively to start, but the focus was there defensively, and I think it carried throughout the rest of the game. And his focus defensively is vital. Now, Chris Paul, you want to talk about Chris Paul? I'll let you go first on Chris Paul here.
Man, I don't really know what to say other than that, anytime you can squeeze a little more juice out of him at the end of a game, it's a pleasure to watch. And we even got to see Chris smile at the end of this one when he hit his final shot of the game. Well, first of all, he was shooting threes, and he was shooting threes pull-up, mostly not off the catch. And so he made a couple of pull-up threes in the second half, but then the final kind of exclamation point for him was that ridiculous corner three after they saved the ball from out of bounds. Where he was
it was a 2,
falling.
but yes.
Was it a 2? That didn't count as a 3? Okay,
no.
So, excuse me. But it was behind the basket, right? Just slightly behind the basket.
Yeah.
Just a ridiculous shot for him to
hit. And
hit.
he thought it was
going
to be a shot clock violation, I think. Didn't realize it hit the rim.
Yeah.
And threw up an insane turnaround shot that arced over the backboard because it was behind the backboard and hit nothing but net. Where, like you said, we saw Chris Paul smile for the first time in the
smile
playoffs.
Afterwards. Usually he's Mr. Business, especially in playoff games. It's good to see when he's having a little bit of fun and when his confidence is high too, because you were pointing out just before we recorded here, the ESPN headline that just went live as they won this game was that the Suns' big three was too much to handle for the Clippers.
Yeah.
And tonight it's reassuring. I don't think they have a big three, for the record. I don't think Chris Paul has consistently played at that level for them to deserve that title.
And he's 38. What are you going to do?
It's a little reassuring that at least tonight you kind of felt like maybe that's accurate. Maybe they played like a
for
big
this
three.
game. It was, yeah.
So,
I think you could say it was
for just this game. Just this game.
ESPN sure thinks they have a big three, by the way. But the thing, all the shot making aside, because I think, well, I won't throw it aside. Let me take a second to acknowledge it. Some crazy shots hit by Chris Paul, and I think it's important for him to hit those shots. I mentioned it in the last game, but a good way to think about it is the way they're guarding him is essentially how the Suns are guarding Westbrook. They're leaving him at the three-point line and just giving him opportunities, going way under around the pick and rolls to try to dare him to shoot, and just hitting them at the right time, 3 for 6 from 3, but also getting to certain spots, including, by the way, attacking off closeouts on the corners, not necessarily just in pick and rolls, getting to the right spots from a different place on the court for him and hitting those shots is really important. But even beyond that, I want to point out that I think his defense has just been stellar in the playoffs so far. In this game, 3 steals and 3 blocks. His hands were all over the place, and he just has not been a liability. There is a version of Chris Paul that is a liability, and that version of Chris Paul that becomes a liability defensively probably would have existed had Kawhi Leonard and Paul George played in these games. But even in the games that Kawhi Leonard played, I don't think you could call Chris Paul a liability. And in this game in particular, he was a positive. Like, he was one of the better defenders on the floor throughout the game. You just couldn't do much with him. You couldn't isolate against him. If you had a shot at the rim, his hands were on the ball. Like, you couldn't do it. And 3 steals and 3 blocks, just an impressive game for him all around.
3 steals and 3 blocks for him. Worth noting, the Suns had 10 steals and 8 blocks as a team, 18 stocks in total, if you want to call them that, which is phenomenal. Obviously, a lot more of those came from Booker. Again, he had another 3 steals. I agree, Chris has been great with the event creation on defense. I will say that just, you live with it when Marcus Morris is trying to post him up. It's just a little bit different when it's Marcus Morris or Norm Powell or whoever that's trying to quote-unquote target him versus if it's Kawhi Leonard or Paul George or whoever it's going to be in a future round. I don't know, Giannis, if they get all the way to the finals, right? I'm not there to declare him, our defensive worries about Chris Paul are over because Marcus Morris and
it's
Norm
just the
Powell
matchup. It's
couldn't
matchup
target
related
him to death.
For sure. It's 100%.
But yes, within the
related.
matchup, he did very well. He forced turnovers. He didn't turn the ball over himself on offense. Right there. What can you say? Obviously, you take that trade-off. It's great.
Yeah, it's important for him to not turn it over when Durant, Ayton, and Booker combined for 12 turnovers too. So to get 9 assists and 0 turnovers, which is obviously something that we just have come to expect out of Chris Paul, but it's particularly important when the other guys can't hold on to it as well as they normally can. Although Durant, 3 turnovers, that seems to be, you could probably just kind of write that in the box score going forward with the way that teams defend him. Let's take a moment to acknowledge Devin Booker is absurd and just insane. 30 points, 7 assists, 9 rebounds, 3 offensive rebounds. The Suns really killed it on offensive rebounds in this game across the board. Ayton with 4, Booker with 3, Torrey Craig with 2, and then 4 players had 1, ended with 14 total offensive rebounds. But the thing about Devin Booker that's become incredible to watch, I think, is that, of course, the scoring is going to be there. And just like the last 2 games for him, it comes when nobody else is scoring. And you can't really take that for granted, how important it is to have a guy who just is like, nothing's happening, I'll do it. But some insane passes by Devin Booker, which is something we've come to expect as well. There was one in particular to Durant in the corner where just picked it up with his right hand, off dribble, never used his left hand to pick up the ball, between 2 defenders, across the court, 40 feet away, right in the pocket for Durant, who hit a 3. But then he also had 3 steals in this game, which seems to be just a regular thing for him now. An insane and important save on a ball that was going out of bounds at an important moment of the game, which does not show up in the box score and just tends to be in the right place at the right time all the time. Just a well-rounded, all-around great player on both sides of the floor doing the right things all the time now. It's just a joy to watch Devin Booker at what he's doing right now.
Has he had the best playoffs of anyone in the NBA through 4 games? I mean, not everyone's played 4 games yet, so maybe we should wait. But, like Kawhi, I felt like was that guy through 2 games, but now he's missed 2 games. And I don't know. I think Booker has a case. He's leading the NBA. Isn't he? He's leading the NBA in scoring. He's had incredible defensive impact. He's playmaking, as you mentioned. That skip pass highlight was, oh my God. It was a highlight of the game for me.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything you could nitpick about his play through 4 games in this series. Other guys on this team, sure. The team as a whole, sure. But not Booker.
He's, top 1. I think you could easily make the case. Top 1 player.
I mean, look, I don't watch everyone else's every game of every other team. It hasn't felt to me like there's another candidate. He's
scored the most of any player in the playoffs so far, and is the best perimeter defender on the Suns in the playoffs so far. I think that's all you really need to say. And look, the Suns are lucky with the matchups they've had so far, in that they don't have to play Kawhi Leonard for 7 games or Paul George for 7 games. They're absolutely lucky that they don't have to do that. But you have to beat who's in front of you, and that team is full of professional players who are playing their ass off to win with an amazing coach, and they're doing it. They're still winning these games. And after, by the way, bad starts, bad first quarters in basically every single game so far.
Every single game.
And look, I'm going to diagnose it right now. People are tired of hearing me say it. I would still start Josh Okogie. I would still start him. I don't think it makes sense to have Torrey Craig chasing around Russell Westbrook. It's not the best matchup for him. It's a better matchup.
We're getting closer
for Josh Okogie. Yeah, they're matched 25 minutes each now. Yeah.
Yeah, 25 minutes each. And steadily we've seen Okogie's playing time increase every single game. And I think Craig's has gone down every single game. So
yes,
we're getting
and
there.
Monty was right. I was wrong about starting Okogie against Kawhi Leonard. That was absolutely the right decision there. And I just wonder if they'll do that. It'll be interesting to see.
Has Okogie made a 3 in the playoffs yet? I'm not sure he has.
I don't think so.
He went 0 for 2 today.
Yeah.
Let me see real quick. He made 1 in game 2. So Josh Okogie through 4 games now, he is 1 for 5 from deep in total.
Yeah.
Which is not a lot of attempts, but that's kind of the story of this team right now. Not a lot of attempts from anyone. Landry Shamet was the first guy off the bench again, somehow, in this game. I have no idea why. He played horribly for 5 minutes. He missed the 1-3 he took. Monty pulled him, brought in Damian Lee instead, and Shamet never reappeared. Damian Lee only took 1 shot, 1-3, in his 14 minutes, and he missed that one too. So
yeah, but they guard him.
There are no...
They
I know.
at least guard him at the
you do
three-point
not
line.
have. Trust me. You do not have to tell me.
Well,
I would continue playing Damian Lee.
Yes,
but there is not a high volume 3-point shooter on this team with the way they're playing. There is not.
Yeah, they won.
They took 22 attempts tonight. They shot 40%.
And they won. Yeah, they won by 12. It's
percentage.
crazy.
I know, but they took 22 attempts. That is early 2000s basketball that this team is playing.
Yeah, through 3 wins in the playoffs, they probably have the least made 3-pointers through 3 wins in the playoffs of like any team in the last 20 years or something like that. Like, it's just insane. And it's, on the backs of absurd mid-range shot making. But although, I don't know, just from the eye test, I don't think it was like an insane mid-range scoring. They actually got to the rim quite a bit in this game from my memory. And it'll be interesting.
And they got a lot
to
of
see
free
the
throws
stats.
again, too.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part. The whole game plan by the Clippers is to be ultra physical with Kevin Durant, and that's just leading to 11 free throws for the second game in a row. And in this game, that was without the intentional fouling at the end of the game. So they're just trying everything they can to throw him off his game. And in this game, I think he started out a little bit rough and looked maybe a little frustrated again. But yeah, there's just nothing you can do. He just gets up there, scores 25 to 35 points, and 11 rebounds, 6 assists, and that's who Kevin Durant is. And he did that all on 17 shot attempts, thanks to those 11 free throws, but 3 for 4 from the 3-point line. A nice time for his 3-point shot to kind of come back a little bit. The Suns need someone to make threes, because outside of him, Chris Paul, and Booker, the Suns were 0 for 6 from 3. Everyone else missed every single 3 they took, except for Biyombo and Ayton, who didn't shoot any.
Who obviously didn't shoot any.
Yeah.
And could you imagine if Ayton chose now as the time to bring his 3-point shot back?
Yeah.
I don't think he's attempted one in months in a real game.
Yeah, I think we're beyond that. He's not.
Yeah, I don't think it's coming.
It's not coming. He's not going to do it. And yeah. Any other thoughts on any of the Suns players or how they played in this game? Anything you want to talk about? Single out in particular?
Let's see. Who have we not talked about yet in this game? We kind of singled out everyone.
I mean,
I guess, yeah. So, go ahead.
The rotation is shorter now, right? It's really eight guys now.
It's 8 guys. I think Monty is still in the process of figuring out who the 8th guy is, because he is ramming Shamet through. He wants him to be that 8th guy. And after one stint, he had to give up and say, okay, Damian Lee, you could be the 8th guy tonight. The question is, what happens when Campaign comes back? Campaign is still out.
Yeah.
Would love to get him back for Game 5. I think so much of what we talked about on the playback stream again, talking about how this was before Chris Paul started making threes in this game, because I think it was during the first half, but about how the Suns need a point guard who shoots. The way to construct a team around Kevin Durant and Devin Booker is to have a point guard who shoots threes. Mm-hmm. And Chris Paul obviously is not that for all of his other strengths. Campaign is not really that either, at least not as a starter, but he is kind of that in that he does shoot threes. He does have a decent catch-and-shoot 3-point percentage over the past couple of years. So I think that'll help. Do they go to an 8-man rotation when Campaign returns, which is just Campaign, Josh Okogie, Bismack Biyombo? Or do they still have that slot shooter in as well, which is basically what I would call the Damian Lee spot at this point?
Look, I think you can probably add Cameron Payne in and still play 9 guys and just try to reduce Chris Paul's minutes, maybe try to reduce Devin Booker's and Kevin Durant's minutes a little bit if you can get some offense going.
KD's kind of the guy where he's going to have to continue to play that amount, as sad as it is. 44 minutes again for him tonight. You can reduce Book's workload for sure. You can reduce Chris Paul's workload with Campaign minutes.
Well, you look at who you're playing off the bench, and who are you going to put in for KD, you know? It can't really be a
They
Kobe.
tried TJ Warren. Didn't like what they saw with TJ Warren.
Yeah. It didn't look good, by the way.
They tried Ish.
And that didn't look
one
good
game
either.
this series, right?
His
That
shooting
didn't
has
look
kind of
good,
left
so
him since the new year. Yeah, Ish Wainwright.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, if Okogie starts, you could have Craig come off the bench for him and play those minutes. That could help a little bit, but, that's just the difference in offenses, between a Hall of Famer superstar player and a $5 million role player. That's just the difference. So, yeah, 45 minutes. I wouldn't call it 45 hard minutes for Durant, not to say that any minutes in the playoffs are easy, but luckily the Suns don't need him to, run it down their throats to the rim over and over and over again like Giannis or something. He's taking the shots. He's taking those mid-range shots. He's in the corner for a while in the game. And ultimately, when you play 45 minutes, as much as people maybe don't want to see him in the corner for a while, that's kind of how you get rest on the court. You have times where you just play decoy, sit in the corner. And, even still in this game, nobody shot more than him except for Devin Booker, who only shot 4 more shots. And look, the reality with Devin Booker shooting 4 more shots is he's doing a much better job at creating his own shot in this series so far than Kevin Durant. And that's okay, because the way the Clippers play defense is if you can get downhill on them the way Devin Booker can, you can get quite a bit more shots. So it is sort of a series tailor-made for Devin Booker to do what he's doing, and he's doing it well. And maybe with campaign that changes.
Maybe a little bit. One other thing I wanted to touch on here that I guess we should mention is I don't know. I feel like a lot of people have asked us games 1 through 3, why aren't the Suns running their stuff? And I think it's something we've addressed at certain points. But you pointed out early on in the game during our stream that the Clippers went back to a lot of traditional drop defensively in this game.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was a coincidence that suddenly a lot of the Suns stuff that we're so used to seeing, the double drag sets, the Spain pick and roll sets, a lot of it reappeared sort of for the first time in this game. I think we saw several instances. Just several. I mean, double drag they've been doing. Spain, we saw several instances of it ran in this game for kind of the first time all series long. And, I didn't have the time to, or I'm certainly not paying attention in the moment to count up the possessions and tell you exactly how good it looked, points per possession. That would be something that someone has to do after the fact, but to my eye, it looked pretty good to see the Suns return that way. And it's something you can only do once a defense is moving back into that kind of traditional stance, not switching everything and whatnot. So
it's a really great point.
Yeah, well,
I'm glad you brought it up, because we spent the first part of this podcast talking about Chris Paul and DeAndre and having their best games of the series so far. And it was the first time that they played a ton of drop coverage. It's not that big of a surprise here. That's kind of what those two guys are tailor-made to play against, right? You want them to play well in a drop coverage situation. And the difference between what is happening here in this particular game compared to the previous few games is the extent to which they were playing sort of a gimmicky style of defense against the Suns has been reduced dramatically. And the gimmick was to send 2 guys at Durant no matter where he was and force everyone else to work off the ball and kind of switch everything around that so that you kind of force guys to work against the switch. And that's one of the reasons Devin Booker was so good in the last game. Best player to work against the switch, the best player to work on the weak side when they're closing out is Devin Booker. Of course, he's going to play well against that. Outside of that, when teams are playing more of a traditional drop defense like the majority of this game they did, then all of a sudden you got the assists going. I have not checked. I would not be surprised if this was the most assists the Suns have had as a team against the Clippers so far. The offense is humming a little bit more. Everything makes more sense. And I think it's an important distinction when people talk about the Suns in a lot of national coverage. They talk about how things don't look quite right yet. And they're right, but they don't give a lot of time to how the Clippers are playing defensively against that. And I think it makes a huge difference because they're one of the teams I think that's well suited to do this, where there's not a lot of teams that are, well suited to do it. I think the best one probably is the Boston Celtics, but the only time the Suns would ever run into them is if they make the NBA Finals. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, that's a really, really great point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, yeah, and just to be clear on one thing, you mentioned the doubles on Durant. They're still sending doubles at Durant. They're just sending doubles at Durant in a different way, right? It's specifically when he catches in the post, the double's still coming at Durant.
Yeah.
When he's at the top of the key, it's not.
They were doing it without him even having the ball. in the last two
right
games.
before he had touched the ball in the last game, and that they became less aggressive. Now they still want to double him in the post, and I think they've still had some success with that. But when they play to their level of physicality, he gets to the line 11 times, and well, what do you know? There's another game where he shits out 30 points on 70% true shooting, and it's just kind of no matter what you throw at him, that he does it. So
yeah,
it's hard, a hard ask for the Clippers defensively, honestly.
Yeah, the Suns should be winning these games, but they are. But it's important to survive the game where Westbrook has 37 points, and they did. Westbrook was really, really good.
Shout out to him, by the way. He has had an awesome series, and not all of us, in fact, most of us did not see it coming. We can be honest about that.
I would not. At 40 minutes in this game, 37 points, only 4 assists and 6 rebounds, still 4 turnovers, matching his assists and turnovers. But, I think Stan Van Gundy, and I don't know if this was an actual stat or if he was just saying it from memory, but he called it his most efficient game of the year. And it may have been just because of how well he was shooting 3 for 6 from 3. Overall, at 17 for 29, still an absurd number of shots, but he kind of has to be the one doing it. The other thing that was different in this game, Marcus Morris started. They can't do that again, right?
Look, they wanted offense and a little bit of size at the same time, because we saw what they tried to do. They tried to maximize their amount of offense in Game 3 with the 5 guards. I thought that was interesting. I don't think it exactly worked. We discussed that a little bit on the stream as well. One way to maybe replace the offense is to swap out one of those guards, like maybe a Bones Highland, who you don't trust so much, and get some of that offense out of Marcus Morris. If he's playing at his best, tonight he did not. And just in general, Marcus Morris has not had... He lost his spot. His last 10 or 15 games of the season were disastrous in general. The numbers were bad. The numbers were bad again tonight. He shot 3 of 12 from the field, 1 of 7 from deep. But Batum's not good either, so I don't know what they do in Game 5 if Kawhi's still out. I don't know what. I would say maybe start Covington and just go all out on defense and switch a lot. But
Covington was bad.
Their hands are kind of tied.
Yeah.
Hands are kind of tied.
Yeah, I mean, they're missing their 2 best players. It's a like an unsolvable equation with maybe the best mathematician in the NBA trying to solve it in Ty Lue. And I'll be interested to see, because like the 5-guard lineup, I would have never expected that in the last game. And the dude still has some punches to throw. And in this one, playing a drop defense and playing Marcus Morris in there, I get it. They've won games like that in the past, but it just didn't work. So what they do in the next game, assuming Kawhi doesn't play, we have no idea what's going to happen with Kawhi. We have no idea what's going to happen with Paul George. But assuming those guys don't play, this is the Suns at home in Game 5 with a chance to close it out. They should win this. They should win it. Even if Kawhi comes back, look, he might be not 100%. Maybe he wasn't 100% in Game 2, but you still won that one. That could impact it. I don't know. It's just, this is your best opportunity. You don't want to let it get to a Game 6 and give them more time, especially if Kawhi Leonard doesn't play in Game 5. They played well. They've done well this whole series, but the Suns are still up 3-1. They have to close it out.
To borrow an expression from one of our favorite opposing coaches, they can't play with their meat in Game 5. They can't do it.
No.
They've got their meat right there. It was good in Game 4. They found their stroke.
They got to cook it.
But now that they found their stroke, you got to stop playing with your meat.
You got to beat
close
your
out
meat
in Game 5.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Are we finishing there?
We'll be back.
Do we have anything else to say?
We'll be back tomorrow for the Patreon members with a podcast to give it. This is the first two-day break in the series. The Suns have 2 days of rest between now and their next game. So, if Kawhi Leonard's close, that could help him out. Game 5 is at home on TNT, 7 p.m. local time. And that will be, at a very, very important game. They win that one. They go to round 2. By then, the Nuggets may have already finished off the Timberwolves, which would not be a surprise. The Wolves suck. And, hopefully the Suns put it together a little bit more. Sorry, I know you like them to start the season. I never believed.
No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, so hopefully they finish it out there and have a chance. The last thing you want is the Nuggets to be more rested than you. But yes, if you're a Patreon member, keep an eye out. We'll have another podcast tomorrow with a guest. I'm looking forward to recording that one. Other than that, we're all set for now. If there's another playback coming, we'll let you know. If you'd like to join our Patreon, you can join at patreon.com/thetimeline, $6 a month for an extra podcast every week, which we're going to try to continue to do throughout the playoffs. You got anything else before we go here, Sam?
That's it. See you in a couple days again. Enjoy the one extra day off, I suppose, and we'll see you Tuesday night.
Thanks, everyone.